Hi, dear friends. Your friend Mufasil here. We are in fact at Luton Airport. We are stuck here because it snowed a lot, and luckily I have our friends, Britain First leaders.
Hi everyone. Good morning.
Hello. Good morning.
Right. As you know that I'm an activist for Britain, and our friends here are Britain First. We may have some political differences, but still we have on one voice about the sufferings of ex-Muslims. And I approached these leaders about what their view, what their take into the sufferings of ex-Muslims, because many of us are in hiding, even in Britain, and mainstream political parties, many of the major political parties will not recognize our problem. So Jayda, what do you say to this?
Well, as we discussed just briefly, we have been approached by a number of ex-Muslims who are literally living in hiding in our country, in our country where we're supposed to be free to exercise our religion or none, and yet they're being persecuted, they're being threatened, they're in danger, their lives are in danger. So we are rolling out at the moment. We've got measures in place to try and reach out to these people and offer support to them, because quite frankly, as soon as you're classed as an ex-Muslim, that special status, that special privilege that you're granted as a practicing Muslim is immediately removed, regardless of race. It doesn't matter. It's only if you class yourself as a Muslim that you will receive this kind of ultra protection that's not afforded to people that have made the decision to leave the religion. So I think it is absolutely imperative that we recognise that these people themselves are a minority, and they have making a very bold leap of leaving a faith, which I've spoken out against. You know my views, and I think we need to offer them as much protection as we possibly can. You know,
there are also many no-go areas for people like us. You know, for me, it is almost impossible to walk down the streets of East London.
Yeah.
Because obviously there was a time when I went to this NHS walk-in centre, and I was called horrible names, and I had to get out of there. Horrible names by Muslims, you know. They were telling me to get out. Dirty animals, what you doing here? Get out. So I'm a cardiac patient, and I had to get out.
Shocking.
And there are areas, no-go areas, even in London, which Sadiq Khan would not recognize.
Yeah.
He will say there is no such thing as no-go area. Would you agree that there are no-go areas for ex-Muslims like us?
Absolutely. I mean, look, there are no-go areas for me as a non-Muslim and as an activist who speaks out against Islam and some of the more barbaric Islamic principles and scriptures. But I mean, there's one thing, me walking through East London and getting spat at, and, you know, I've preached the gospel, I've been spat at, fine, okay? I mean, it's not okay, but it's happened, and it's something that I've actually learned to almost accept is going to happen because I've been outspoken. But forget that. Imagine because the scriptures state, right, that anybody that leaves the religion is a hypocrite, and therefore the hypocrites are worse than the kuffar, worse than the unbelievers, the disbelievers like myself. So the danger is so much greater for someone who's left the ideology, because you become immediately marked, like you are immediately making yourself a target. So if only to just recognise the bravery and help these people, I think it's something that Britain First is very keen to get more involved in, and I expect I would expect the authorities to do more. But
Right. Now, what did you say about the present situation with Mr. Trump?
Well, it's quite unprecedented for the President of the United States to retweet anyone. The fact that he did 3 videos on the trot, we believe, is a very deliberate... I don't think it's an endorsement, but what I believe it was is that it came to his attention somehow that Jayda has been arrested for making a speech in public which was critical of Islam. She criticised Islam in a public speech, and as a result she's facing prison. So essentially, as you know, in Sharia law, criticism of Islam carries the death penalty, and international Islamic organisations are always pushing Western governments and pressuring them to try and adopt laws that that stifle criticism of Islam. So I believe it came across his desk that Jayda was facing prison for criticising Islam in a Western, free democratic state. And I believe his way of poking the British government and drawing attention to Jayda's plight was to retweet 3 times consecutively. And it caused an absolute international media storm, as you know.
Right. Now, freedom of speech and freedom of religion should include the right to criticize the religion.
Absolutely.
And I don't think, from my personal legal experience, I do not think the laws of this country, even discrimination laws or whatever, are not equipped enough to sort of safeguard, especially ex-Muslims' right to criticize Islam. The main reason is, as a theologian, I have seen that there are specific Quranic verses, for example, Surah 9 or Surah 3 and verse 90, where, in fact, if you leave and then you criticize, there is no pardon for you.
Yeah.
There are some Islamic theologians and of the Al-Azhar University are trying to sort of reach a middle ground to say, okay, you can live, but it's not enough. We want to not only criticize, mock the religion.
Yes.
Do you think the laws of this country as political leader, do you think it is equipped enough, or do you think we need amendments of law? Because President Obama, before he left office, he amended the Freedom of Religion Act in America in December. And what did you say to that?
Well, obviously we all know that Sharia law governs the way Muslims are supposed to interact and the way they're supposed to live their lives. And we all know that the penalty for leaving Islam, apostasy, is death under Sharia law. And in the West, we regularly see, almost every day, political critics, pundits, commentators mocking aspects of Christianity and even other religions. It seems to me like we're getting into a situation now where you can mock or criticise any religion except Islam. Islam is given protected species status, and people such as myself and Jayda and several others are always prosecuted when we criticise Islam. So it seems that if you're in Iran or parts of Afghanistan or Saudi Arabia and you criticise Islam, of course you'll be arrested, you'll be prosecuted, you'll probably be put to death. It seems that those kind of laws to make the Western countries Sharia compliant, so you can't criticise Islam, that's slowly creeping in. But we live in a free democratic society with the free flow of ideas, and you should be free to criticise and in some cases mock on a political basis. That is the very essence of free speech. It's like what Voltaire said. He might not agree with what you say, but he will fight to the death for your right to say it.
Yes.
And if that is not the basis of our Western societies, then we'll end up with a situation where you have free speech, but you can't criticise Islam.
Exactly.
Free speech, but don't mock Islam.
Yes.
But mocking Christianity is fine. Mocking any other religion is fine. Just don't mock that one specific religion that is given protected species status.
Now, Jayda, I saw in one of your videos that you went up in front of East London Mosque.
Yeah.
And you held the cross.
Yeah.
But are you aware that the Imam of East London Mosque called to use hands, and we have video footage to prove, he called for use of hand against apostates from Islam. Do you know that?
Yeah. I'm well aware of the extremism within that mosque. I mean, that mosque is a den for producing extreme, radical followers of the Islamic ideology, and I've been met with many of them when I've been outside the mosque with the cross. But yeah, I mean, look, this is just another example of complete and utter ignorance by the establishment, because we know, I mean, aside from the fact that we know what's in the scriptures, here's the problem, right? This is the problem I always have, and that's why I'm in trouble, because I've basically, recently I gave a speech in Belfast in August. I said that, I pointed out that Muslims are obliged to kill non-Muslims. It's stated in the Quran. I'm not saying that all Muslims are killing non-Muslims, because obviously it would be a bloodbath. But what I'm trying to point out is that a lot of Muslims don't know the scriptures, they haven't studied the Quran, and in actual fact, great news, they're probably not Muslim. if they were shown, because a lot of people are law-abiding, peaceful, and if they were exposed to what's actually in that book, a lot of them would say, do you know what, I can't stand for that, I wouldn't. as a Christian, if I read scriptures that said, kill all the non-Christians.
I would say, for example, I will hate the disease, but not the diseased.
Oh yeah, of course.
Would you like me differentiate between a Muslim who are, as you said, do not know Islam that much, and Islam by itself? Because Islam by itself, it cannot be right. It is not right. No. Now, lastly, my question would be on a personal level, because I'm involved with For Britain. Mm-hmm. What is your take about For Britain?
To be honest, I know very little about For Britain. I mean, we're a political party, so we contest elections, we carry out street activities. Sorry, we've got a bit of noise in the background. But yeah, I know very little about them at the moment. I mean, from what I've been told today, I understand that if there's any kind of association or links or outreach to ex-Muslims, then I 100% endorse that, because I think we have a duty, and it's a massive shortcoming of our country. We have a duty to protect these people, and in fact we should be going out of our way to protect these people, but instead I've seen case after case after case of people being driven out of their areas, being physically attacked, death threats, for simply just leaving an ideology, simply exercising their right to say, actually, I don't want to follow that faith anymore. So if we get to the point where they're in more danger than those who say, okay, I align with this or that, there's real big problems. I don't see atheists, I don't see Sikhs, Hindus, Jews, Christians, I don't see them getting the same treatment as ex-Muslims in terms of the ferocity of it. They are really, really targeted. So I fully endorse that. I think if you're working together on that level, I back it 100%.
Now, you know that I debated one of the Islamic scholars recently. What's your take of that, both of you, about the debate that I had?
I must admit, and I'm truly sorry, but I haven't watched it.
I saw bits of it, and a good friend of ours who's a councillor in Belfast.
I mean Jolene.
Councillor Jolene Bunting is an absolute star,
yes.
And she's a friend of both of ours. So I thought she actually highlighted the fact that this debate had taken place at our conference recently, and so it's had a bit more attention. People are going and taking a look, and I've had some really good feedback. So it's always, I think, debate is key. People are reluctant.
That's a way to expose as well.
I think so, yeah. I mean, people are reluctant to engage in debate when they think you know what you're talking about. So, for example, I've actually, before he got locked up, I had to go to his house a few times, but I actually arranged for Paul and myself to debate with Anjem Chowdhury and some of his cronies. And at the last minute, he kept pulling out. This happened on a few occasions, because they lose their bottle when they realise that actually you are able to recite the scriptures that
I actually wanted a guarantee. Anjem Chowdhury wanted a cast iron guarantee from both of us that we wouldn't mock the Prophet Muhammad. Yeah. So I said, I mean, what do you classify as mocking? Right. Because obviously we're going to criticise him, we're going to call him names, we're going to use labels to describe him. So he's like, no, if you're going to mock him, I'm not going to debate you. Well, it's not going to be much of a debate.
Well, I, as far as I know, I unapologetically called Muhammad a rapist, because he was a rapist. Yeah. And I am ready to argue on that from Islamic theology. I know the books like the back of my hand. Yeah. And if any Islamic scholars that you know of who will be willing to prove otherwise, they will be most than welcome to come and debate with us, with me. And both of you, thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome. It's been an absolute pleasure. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right. God bless.
Thank you.